The winter wind cut through the Boston streets like 1,000 frozen knives, and Maya Chen pulled her worn coat tighter around her body as she hurried toward the subway station. She had exactly $12 left until payday, a shift at the diner that had drained every ounce of her energy, and feet that ached so badly she could barely feel them anymore. But then she saw him, a young man huddled against the brick wall of a closed bookstore, his thin frame shaking violently beneath a threadbare sweater that offered no protection against the brutal February cold. His lips had turned an alarming shade of blue, and his fingers, clutched around his knees, were white and trembling. In that moment, Maya didn't think about her own struggles, her overdue rent, or the fact that she only owned 2 winter jackets and desperately needed both of them. She only saw someone who might not survive the night. If you believe in the power of kindness and the extraordinary moments that change lives forever, please hit that like button. Leave a comment about a time someone showed you unexpected compassion. Share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us of the goodness that still exists in this world. Maya approached the stranger slowly, not wanting to startle him. His eyes, when they finally met hers, held an emptiness that made her heart constrict. He couldn't have been more than 25. With dark circles carved beneath his eyes and a defeated slump to his shoulders that spoke of battles fought and lost. Without saying a word, Maya unbuttoned her jacket, the nice one, the navy blue wool coat with the warm lining that her grandmother had given her 3 Christmases ago, before she passed away. It was the only truly valuable thing Maya owned, not in monetary terms, but in the way it carried memories and love and the warmth of family that no longer existed. She draped it over the young man's shoulders, and he looked up at her with such shock and confusion that tears immediately sprang to his eyes. He tried to refuse, tried to push it back toward her, but Maya gently pressed it onto him, noticing the way his body immediately stopped its violent shaking as the coat's warmth enveloped him. She told him to keep it, that she had another one at home, which was technically true even though her other jacket was a thin windbreaker that barely qualified as outerwear. Before he could protest further, Maya pressed 4 of her remaining dollars into his hand, told him there was a 24-hour diner 2 blocks down where he could get something warm to eat. And then she walked away quickly, not wanting him to see the tears that were now streaming down her own face. The walk home in just her thin sweater was brutal. The cold seemed to pierce straight through to her bones, and by the time Maya climbed the 3 flights of stairs to her tiny studio apartment, she was shaking almost as badly as the stranger had been. She made herself a cup of instant ramen with water heated in her electric kettle because the gas had been shut off 2 weeks ago, wrapped herself in every blanket she owned, and tried not to think about how foolish she had been to give away her only good coat. But even as she shivered, she couldn't regret it. Something in that young man's eyes had called to something deep within her soul, a recognition of suffering, of loneliness, of being invisible in a city full of people who looked right through you. Maya had been there herself not so long ago. 3 years earlier, she had been a promising graphic design student at Boston University, with dreams of working for a major advertising agency and a future that sparkled with possibility. Then her parents died in a car accident. Her younger brother got sick and needed expensive treatment that insurance wouldn't cover, and Maya's entire life had collapsed like a house of cards. She dropped out of school, took 2 jobs just to keep her brother in treatment, and watched her dreams evaporate like morning mist. Her brother had recovered, thank God, and was now living with their aunt in California, finishing high school and applying to colleges. But Maya had been left behind in Boston, barely surviving, working shifts at a diner where customers often treated her like she was less than human, living in an apartment with peeling paint and a radiator that only worked half the time. The next morning, Maya woke to her phone buzzing insistently. It was her coworker Denise calling at 7 in the morning on Maya's day off. When Maya answered, Denise was practically screaming. She told Maya to turn on the television immediately, to put on Channel 7 News, and to prepare herself for something unbelievable. Still groggy and confused, Maya turned on her small television set, and what she saw made her freeze with the remote still in her hand. There, on the morning news, being interviewed by a reporter with a bright smile and a microphone, was the young man from last night. But he looked completely different. clean, composed, wearing an expensive suit and sitting in what appeared to be a high-rise office. The banner at the bottom of the screen read, "Billionaire tech CEO goes undercover to experience homelessness. What he discovered will shock you." Maya's hands started trembling as she turned up the volume and listened to his story. His name was David Richardson, founder and CEO of Richardson Technologies, a software company worth over $3 billion. He explained to the reporter that 3 months ago, his younger sister had died while living on the streets, suffering from addiction and mental illness. David had been so consumed with building his empire that he hadn't even known she was in trouble until it was too late. Devastated by guilt and grief, he had decided to spend one night every week living on the streets himself, trying to understand what his sister had experienced, trying to somehow feel closer to her and make amends for his neglect. But then, David said, his voice breaking with emotion, something extraordinary had happened. Last night a woman had given him her coat, not a cheap coat, but clearly something precious to her, something that meant something. She had done it without hesitation, without asking questions, without judgment. She had looked at him like he was a human being who mattered, not like he was invisible or dangerous or less than. In his entire life, David said, despite all his billions and success and power, no one had ever shown him such pure, unconditional kindness. The camera zoomed in on David's hands, and Maya gasped. He was holding her grandmother's navy blue coat, the one she had draped over his shoulders just 12 hours ago. David told the reporter that he was trying to find this woman, that he had checked the lining of the coat and found initials embroidered there, MC, and that he wanted to thank her, to let her know that her simple act of compassion had reminded him why he had started his company in the first place, why any of it mattered. He had spent the rest of the night sitting in that coat, crying for his sister, feeling the warmth of human connection for the first time since her death, and now he wanted to find this angel who had saved him, not from the cold, but from the dangerous numbness that had been consuming his soul. Maya sat in stunned silence as the broadcast continued. The reporter was asking viewers to help identify the mysterious woman with the initials MC who had been seen near the downtown area last night around 9 o'clock. They posted a phone number and email address on the screen. Maya's phone started buzzing again. Denise, other co-workers, her aunt in California who had somehow already heard about it. Everyone was telling her to call the number, to identify herself, to claim whatever reward was surely being offered. But Maya just sat there, staring at the television screen, watching this. Billionaire CEO hold her grandmother's coat like it was made of gold, and she started to cry. Not because of any potential reward, not because her life might be about to change, but because in that moment of giving away her coat, she had been seen. Her kindness had mattered. Her choice to help another suffering human being, despite having almost nothing herself, had created ripples that were now spreading across the entire city. This story touched your heart. If it reminded you that one small act of compassion can change everything, please leave a like on this video and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that kindness still exists in this world. Your engagement helps us share more stories of hope and humanity. And please take a moment to comment below what's one act of kindness you could do today for someone who needs it. Your answer might inspire someone else to spread kindness too. Maya eventually did call the number. When she met David Richardson 2 days later in his office high above the Boston skyline, she wasn't prepared for what happened next. David didn't just thank her and send her away. He had done his research, learned about her story, about her parents and her brother, and her abandoned dreams of graphic design. He offered her a position at his company, not out of charity, but because he said anyone with the character to give away their last coat to a freezing stranger was exactly the kind of person he wanted on his team. He had also started a foundation in his sister's name to help homeless individuals struggling with addiction and mental illness, and he wanted Maya to help him design the branding and outreach materials. But more than the job, more than the financial security that would finally allow Maya to breathe, what changed her life was the reminder that kindness creates miracles. Maya had given away her coat expecting nothing in return, had walked home freezing and vulnerable, had gone to bed that night thinking maybe she had been foolish. Instead, her compassion had sparked a transformation, not just in David's life, but in her own. Sometimes the universe rewards those who give without expecting anything back, who choose love over self-preservation, who see the humanity in strangers and act accordingly. 6 months later, Maya stood in a warm office with her name on the door, working on campaigns that helped thousands of people, and on her coat rack hung both her grandmother's navy blue coat, which David had insisted she keep, and a new coat that David had given her. A gesture, he said, to remind her that giving doesn't mean losing, that kindness multiplies rather than diminishes, and that the warmth we offer to others always finds its way back to us, often in ways we could never have imagined.